Hello, Reapers! How y'all doing today, folks? Hope you're doing fantastic, wonderful. My name's Seth, and we are back again for some more Trove, and we've got some exciting news today. I'm totally not lying about this by any means necessary. We've got the new scoop on the update of all of the Trove stuff. This is coming out in March, okay? So let's take a look at this new, exciting trailer of Trove's next update. Ignore the title, it's called PixARK. That's the next update. You can see we got a huge graphic overhaul, actual swimming and underwater, proper voxel building out in open worlds where you can play with your friends and stuff like that, prop items, activating doorways, trees that just grow instantaneously for some odd reason, fire dynamics, and we've got proper dungeons and new boss enemies. The entire game has been completely overhauled up to this point. I can't believe that they're doing this for 2018. We saw dinosaurs being introduced, so that's the dino biome. Of course, we got the volcanic biome right there underground, and then you can actually ride like new raptor mounts, fighting other creatures, taming them. You got giant quatzals, very similar to another game that we ended up playing more recently called Ark. And then we've got giant cyclops. Rocket launchers are finally being added to the game. We got goblins that you can trade with and merchants and stuff like that. It's just, this is insane. This is absolutely blowing my mind. Like, look at that dragon. Didn't that look beautiful? Okay. All right. I'm a dirty, filthy liar, okay? Somebody seriously, please don't hurt me. Be gentle in the comments. But if we actually scroll down on this very video right here, you can see Crazy Person did make a comment saying, this looks just like Trove, which I completely agree, except it's got so much more going on for it, right? So this is actually a new game called PixARK. Now, today I'm going to be talking about some of the differences between what we can expect in this PixARK game and Trove, because there's been a lot of debate recently about what's going to actually happen when this game comes out, because this game is actually debuting in March in early access on Steam. Now, we'll see whether or not it gets delayed or anything like that, but Trove's next update is supposed to be coming out in March as well, and that could also end up being delayed in either case, right? But there's been lots of debate lately of whether or not Trove is actually a dead game, and also just with the fact that the community, it's not that the community is slowly quitting or anything like that, it's that Trove isn't really bringing in any new players. Like, we can all kind of admit that with the recent updates, that the game isn't getting any more popular than it already has, right? And with this PixARK game coming out at just the right timing, like this is the perfect timing for a big open world voxel game like that to start coming out that could kind of capitalize on Trove very similarly to how Trove, and when it originally was coming out, ended up capitalizing on a game called Cube World. Now, Cube World, I'll just go on a little bit of a rant here to explain that to those of you that don't know, but years back, there was an indie developer that started making this game called Cube World, right? And essentially what it was a game that was like Minecraft, but it had more focus on adventuring, and at the time didn't even have any building. It still doesn't have any building. Essentially, this guy pretty much just ripped everybody off, took all of the early access money, and it was one of the first early access games, in fact, where the developer just quit developing the game and kept all of the profits for himself. And unfortunately, we've seen what has happened to early access games from that point onward, but Trove ended up coming around right around the same time that Cube World did. And at the time, Trove was not really as impressive as Cube World, but the defining difference was that Trove was actually being developed. And now, you know, time has already shown that Trove has superseded Cube World. The Cube World developer kind of came out of hiding to pretend that he was developing the game, but honestly, anybody who's a sucker and actually falls for that developer and thinking that he's actually developing the game, I mean, who cares at this point if Cube World comes out, right? So we got this other game coming out called PixARK. Now, if you haven't already checked out the series on my channel, or just checked out the game in general, there's this game called Ark that's very, very popular, and ended up being pretty popular on the channel as well, where it's a survival game very similar to Rust or DayZ and stuff like that, where you go out into the world, gather resources, bring them back to your base, and then also all of the creatures in the game, there's all sorts of dinosaurs and stuff like that, that you can tame and actually make not only a pet, but the majority of them, if you are a high enough level, you can craft a saddle to ride all of them. Now, what this PixARK game seems to be is just that. Like, it's just the exact same Ark game, but all pixelated and beautiful. So there's gonna be, I'm gonna have a separate video kind of over analyzing the trailer and the screenshots and stuff like that so that you can have a better understanding of what the game is. But most of all today, I'm gonna tell you the defining differences of PixARK versus Trove and why I wouldn't necessarily say that it's going to be a Trove killer, because that's another thing that I've been noticing people have been saying in the community as they ended up finding this game is like, is this going to be the end of Trove? Now, I think that a lot of Trove fans might end up migrating over to this, but is it going to be better than Trove? That kind of, the game, first of all, isn't even out yet, but more so than that, we can't really say for sure just because of the fact that they're going to be very completely different games. Like if we look at the ARK games in general, they're usually on like private servers and stuff like that, so you can either like set it up so that you have your own private server and a whole bunch of people to play on it. Usually it has a very, a player limit, right? Which I guess similarly to Trove, we kind of have that in the worlds themselves only being able to go up to 75 players. But the fact of the matter is that this is not a full-on MMORPG. It's an RPG, it's open world, it's random generated with all the voxel stuff, and it's got different skill trees that you can end up going down and stuff like that, but it is not going to end up being as vast as Trove is with the community that we've actually got going on here, right? So there's that as the big defining difference between the two games, is that PixARK is going to be a game that you can play single player, but you can also play it with friends or be on a survival server and play it with lots of other people, in which case it's going to end up being very competitive. So that's kind of the big thing about those ARK games, is if you're not on like a specific PvE server that ends up locking out PvP, it's going to be open world PvP. You're going to be able to fight other players, destroy them, destroy their bases, grief them, raid their chests while they're offline and take all of their stuff, because with those games as well, your character model is going to stay on the game even when you log out. So thus promoting the idea that people could sneak into your base and they could either kill you while your character's asleep, or they could just rob you outright, right? Now, the thing that I want to get off my chest right here, folks, is that with Trove, I love this game. I really, really do. But for the longest time, we've been waiting for something big to end up happening with the game. And while there is a lot of big, major updates planned for 2018, and you can bet that I'm still going to cover Trove into the vast future and going to be excited about those updates accordingly, but a game like this is coming out at the absolute perfect time, I think, because as of right now, we don't really know that much about the next March update. February for Trove is supposed to have a bit of an overhaul to the adventurine aspect of the game, and then the March update sounds like it's actually aiming at overhauling a bit of the gem system, while we don't necessarily know how much content it's going to end up actually adding. So I think that that update in combination with PixARK coming out at the same time, we're gonna have our hands full, Reapers, like seriously. So PixARK is going to be a game that I'm definitely going to end up covering on the channel, and when the game ends up releasing, you can expect a little bit more videos like this where I'm going to be doing comparisons between the two, because as of right now, I can only speak from my personal experience from playing ARK and Portal Knights and other voxel MMO or just voxel games in general, right? And I can't really say for certain how the game is going to end up unfolding, but I'm assuming that PixARK is going to end up being, let's say, you can choose the size of the map from large to small, and then it probably is just going to generate, a random world, of course, but it's just going to be set. And the whole thing about the game, too, is that it's going to end. So very similar to ARK, you end up going through the game, fighting a bunch of creatures, going through dungeons, gathering boss materials so that you can summon bosses, fight them, and then potentially you end up completing the game or just fighting the bosses over and over to get certain items from them. Again, I want to say that PixARK is not going to be a full-on MMO like Trove. I just wanted to kind of talk about the comparisons between the two and just say that we know that these games are both going to be good. For myself personally, I've had an itch for playing ARK that hasn't been scratched yet. Even when I had ARK on the channel, I never ended up finishing the final boss of the expansion area, and that's just because I ended up getting bored of the game. However, this game right here, like PixARK, I mean, look at this, dude. It looks so good. Like, the fact that we're talking about a voxel game that is going to play similarly to ARK, I am all on board with this one. I could totally see PixARK becoming, a main series on the channel right alongside Trove, and I'm hoping that you guys and gals watching at home are going to be just as excited as I am for this, because I feel that this is going to end up sparking up a lot of excitement, not only in just this being a new voxel game the way that it is, but also with the pretty graphics and the dynamic lighting and everything like that, but also because it's going to give us something to do while we're waiting for the next big Trove updates, right? That's kind of my 2 cents towards it anyways. I just think that it's going to be really, really cool. When this game ends up coming out, of course, I'm going to look at the idea of getting a private server so that I can have only a handful of people end up joining. And then once I get the hang of the game, potentially I could end up slowly upping the player capacity and then inviting some exclusive fans into that game. But again, we got to try and see how that's going to end up working out. We got to try and find out whether or not this game is going to end up having insane griefing as the ARK games usually can. And if we can actually lock all that down so that it's kind of like separate tribes can kind of just go and do their own thing, then I think it could be something very exciting, because I like playing against the in-game creatures rather than playing against other players. Now, another thing too, again, that's very interesting is the fact that you can build custom houses. So again, we're gonna have another video talking very soon about me just over analyzing the trailer and the screenshots and stuff like that. It's not that I necessarily do stuff like that on the channel, but I still think it could just be exciting, because this game feels very, very similar to Trove while being something altogether different, and I'm really, really excited about that. So I just wanted to most of all use this video to get some hype around it, because it's coming out the same time that the Trove update's supposed to be coming out. So you know that I'm gonna have my hands full with all the Trove tutorials and stuff like that, but also learning and getting the hang of the PixARK game, and also the fact that that game is coming out in early access, which means that in a couple years it could end up launching on Steam. And I mean, we'll see what ends up happening there, right? But it said that it was coming out on Xbox One as well. So very exciting stuff going on here, folks. Like, seriously, it's been being developed by the same team that made ARK as well. So you could keep that in mind as far as the development is concerned. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you ended up enjoying this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. That's also going to build up loyalty points in my merch store. Links are in the description for that, and for the fans that want to go the extra mile, you can donate to me for absolutely free with Gawkbox. Check links in the description explaining that as well. Hopefully I didn't step on too many toes by making a video talking about Trove and, the next update. I kind of thought it would be a nice tease to say that it was the next Trove update because it's coming out at the exact same time, right? But in either case, I'm still excited about both games, so you don't gotta worry about like, oh, is PixARK going to be the replacement of Trove? By no means is it going to be a replacement of Trove, but in a lot of ways I feel that it could be something that lots of Trove players can not only move on to playing, but also just playing at the same time. It kind of will give 2 different distinct gameplay experiences for the price of having a beautiful voxel game. And there's never enough voxel games out in the world, right? Anyways, have a fantastic day, everybody. Sayonara, and stay epic.